If you ever see a child in a yellow raincoat, don't call his name, just go home. That's what they told her, but she didn't listen. And that night, in the middle of a rainstorm, her little brother, who had been dead for a year, led her home. Let's uncover the story, only on Uncle Hollowneck's. The rain hadn't stopped for hours. Ina wiped the fog from her car window as she turned off the main road and into the narrow path that cut through the trees. She was late. The traffic coming out of Kuala Lumpur had been brutal, and now it was almost 10 p.m. Her hometown in Selong was quiet this time of night, but her parents would still be waiting. Tonight was important. It marked exactly 1 year since her little brother Emir passed away. She hadn't been home in months. Work, university, and maybe guilt had kept her away. Now the weight of it all pressed heavy on her chest as the forest closed in around the road. Earlier that day, her mother had called one last time. "If you're coming late, don't take the forest route, just wait until morning." Ina had laughed it off. She'd driven this road since she was 17. She wasn't about to let some old ghost stories dictate her night. But as she turned down the path, her headlights barely cutting through the sheets of rain, the laughter faded. The forest seemed darker than she remembered. The trees felt closer. Every branch hung like a shadow, dripping with water. The air was thick, and the road ahead shimmered like a wet ribbon. She gripped the wheel tighter. "It's just a road. I've done this 100 times." But deep down, something felt off, like the forest was watching. She didn't know it yet, but before the night was over, she would meet someone who wasn't supposed to be there. Someone who hadn't been alive for exactly 1 year. It happened on a night just like this, rain hammering the rooftops, wind hissing through the trees. Emir had only been 9 years old. He'd gone to the small shop near the edge of the village to buy bread and a bottle of soy sauce for dinner. It was a 10-minute ride. Everyone in the neighborhood knew him. Bright smile, always polite, never without his little yellow raincoat. That coat had been a gift from Ina. She'd bought it for him on her first trip to the city. He wore it everywhere, even when it wasn't raining. But that night, it poured. And Emir, being who he was, didn't want to disappoint his mother. So he went. Somewhere along the way, as he pedaled down the narrow forest road, the raincoat got tangled in the bike chain. The wheels jammed. The bike flipped. Emir hit the ground hard, scraped knees, dazed. He tried to get up. That's when the headlights came. The truck had lost control on the slick road. Local driver, trying to brake too late. There was no time. No one saw it happen. But the next morning, a school teacher on her way to class found the boy's body lying near the ditch, the yellow coat soaked through with mud and blood. His eyes were still open. The village froze. They canceled classes. Shops closed early. At the funeral, the imam broke into tears halfway through the prayer. Even the neighbors who rarely spoke came and stood in the rain, holding umbrellas that trembled in their hands. His mother didn't speak for days. His father just sat by the window staring at the road. And Ina? She never forgave herself for missing the call that night. She was out with friends, her phone on silent. By the time she saw the 10 missed calls from home, it was too late. From that day on, no one in the village ever used that road after sunset. The funeral ended, but the silence never did. For weeks, the house felt colder. like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Emir's room was left untouched, his school books still stacked neatly, his sneakers by the door, his yellow raincoat hanging behind the kitchen door exactly where he'd left it. His mother moved slower now. She stopped cooking his favorite dishes. She stopped cooking much at all. Most days, she sat in the prayer room, fingering her tasbih beads in silence, whispering the same du'as over and over again. His father didn't speak, not even to Aina. He just sat by the window every evening, staring out toward the forest road. Sometimes, when the wind blew hard, he'd flinch, like he was hearing something no one else could. And Aina? She returned to university, but something inside her had shifted. She couldn't focus. She skipped classes. Her once bright dorm room filled with unopened books and untouched food. She stopped calling home, because every time she did, her mother's voice sounded a little thinner, a little more hollow. When she did return for holidays, it was always awkward, quiet. The three of them moved like shadows around each other, careful not to bump into the memories. Neighbors whispered that the family was cursed. Some said they heard Emir's bicycle bell ringing in the dead of night. Others claimed they saw a child's shadow in the yard when it rained. And there was one moment, 3 months after the funeral, that Aina never spoke about. She had opened her closet late one night to grab an old sweater, and inside, hanging neatly, was Emir's yellow raincoat, still damp. She didn't scream. She just closed the door and went to bed with the lights on for the first time in years. In the village, grief wasn't loud. It didn't break things or cry in public. It lingered, like the fog that clung to the forest each morning, quiet, heavy, and impossible to escape.
The first time it happened, they thought it was just faulty wiring. It was around 2:17 a.m. Aina remembered exactly because she glanced at her phone when she woke up. The light in the hallway kept flickering, a soft, almost rhythmic blink, on, off, on again. She got up, annoyed, thinking it was a dying bulb. But when she opened the door to the hallway, the light stopped. Just stillness. Then she heard it. Tiny footsteps, barefoot, fast, like a child running in circles just outside the house. She rushed to the window, heart racing. There was nothing. Only the yard, soaked in rain, empty. The next morning, her mother looked pale. "Did you hear anything last night?" she asked over breakfast, eyes fixed on her tea. Aina nodded. Her mother said nothing more, but Aina saw her fingers tighten around her cup, the knuckles white. That week, it kept happening. The sound of toys being rolled across the wooden floor, the gentle knock on Emir's bedroom door, always at 2:17 a.m., a soft giggle in the prayer room. Then came the day the neighbor's son fell ill. He was 5, healthy, active. Suddenly, he had a high fever and wouldn't stop crying. When his mother asked what was wrong, he whispered, "Emir wants me to play outside, even when it's dark." That night, the imam came to pray over the house. He walked from room to room, chanting softly. In Emir's room, he stopped longer. He didn't say why. He only told the family, keep his door closed at night and pray for him. Aina started noticing something else too, the yellow raincoat. It kept showing up in different places, once draped over the kitchen chair, once lying neatly folded at the foot of her bed, once hanging from the back of the bathroom door, even though it had been locked from the inside. Each time, No one had moved it. No one even touched it anymore. But it always smelled faintly of rain. The village knew something was wrong. People walked faster near the house. Kids crossed to the other side of the street. And through it all, Emir's name was never spoken aloud, as if saying it would give him permission to come back.
It was supposed to be a simple drive. Ina had left the city late, stuck behind a dozen trucks and stalled cars on the highway. By the time she reached the turnoff to her village, the rain had started again. Thick, heavy drops that drummed against the windshield like fingers tapping faster and faster. She hesitated at the fork in the road. Left led through the open highway, an extra 30 minutes. Right cut through the forest. The same forest. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. Don't take the forest road after dark. Just wait until morning. But Ina was tired, and tired people make bad decisions. She turned right. The rain swallowed the car. Branches overhead twisted like arms. Her headlights fought against the dark, revealing only thin slices of the wet, winding road ahead. Then something moved, just at the edge of the light, to the right. Small, quick. She slowed. A child? There was someone up ahead, a small figure, walking on the shoulder of the road, barefoot, soaked, wearing a yellow raincoat. Ina's breath caught. She blinked, thinking it was a reflection, a trick of light. But the figure turned. A face. Round cheeks. Wet black hair. Eyes too calm for a stormy night. And lips that moved. She rolled down her window a crack. The rain blowing in. The voice was soft. Follow me. No fear. No scream, no cold sweat, just a strange, heavy calm, as if her heart recognized something her brain hadn't caught up with yet. The boy turned back and began walking down a narrow dirt path that veered off the main road. Ina turned the wheel slowly, headlights following him. He never looked back, but he didn't have to. She followed. Something in her said she had no other choice.
The path was rough, but familiar. Ina didn't remember ever driving that exact trail before, but somehow every turn felt right. The rain eased as she approached the village gate, and by the time she reached the front of her family's house, it had slowed to a drizzle. The boy was gone. No goodbye, no glance back. Just gone. Ina sat there in the car for a moment, unsure if she'd imagined the entire thing. Her clothes were damp. Her hands trembled. But deep inside, a strange peace had settled, like something had guided her through a storm that should have gone worse. The front door flew open. Her father ran out first, barefoot in the wet gravel. Behind him, her mother, wrapped in a shawl, eyes wide with panic. "We thought something happened to you. You weren't answering your phone." Ina stepped out, still dazed. "I took the forest road, but someone helped me. A boy." They froze. "What boy?" her mother asked slowly. "Small, wet. He had on a yellow raincoat. He told me to follow him and he led me here." Her mother's hands began to shake. Her father took a step back. "What did you say?" "The boy, he was maybe 9, brown eyes, kind face, looked just like—" She didn't finish the sentence because her eyes had moved past them into the living room, to the shelf, to the photo. The frame was simple, wood, a little scratched. The photo inside. A boy in a yellow raincoat, grinning wide, arms outstretched. Emir. Exactly. exactly how she remembered him, exactly how he looked in the rain. Her knees gave out, but her father caught her before she hit the ground. "He came back," she whispered. "He came back for me." Her mother cried for the first time in months. And outside, just for a moment, the raincoat on the back porch moved in the wind, as if someone had passed through it, silently, gently, gone.
It came 3 nights later. The house had returned to its quiet rhythm. Prayers before bed, warm tea left untouched, the television humming low in the background. No more lights flickering, no more footsteps in the hallway. The yellow raincoat once again was folded and placed inside a small wooden chest near the entryway. On the 3rd night, Ina's mother had a dream. She didn't speak about it right away. She waited until morning, until the sun had broken through the clouds, until the air smelled of jasmine and damp earth. Then, over breakfast, she quietly said, "I saw him." Ina looked up. He was standing at the front door, not in the raincoat, just in his white school uniform, clean, smiling. She paused, her eyes wet but steady. She didn't say anything, just looked at me for a long time, then turned around and walked away. No one spoke for a while. There was no need to. Everyone knew what it meant. In some ways, it was the moment they'd all been waiting for. Not just a haunting, not just a visit, but closure, a release. Ina whispered, more to herself than anyone else. He waited until we were all home again. That night, her mother lit a small oil lamp and placed it by Emir's photo. No incense, no flowers, just light, a simple offering, a thank you. From that day on, the house changed. The heaviness lifted. Laughter returned, slowly, like a guest hesitant to knock. The prayer room smelled of fresh air. The yard, once avoided, became a place to sit again. And the door to Emir's room? They opened it, not as a shrine, but as part of the home again. There were no more sightings, no more dreams, but sometimes when the rain came soft and steady, the family would gather by the window, tea in hand, and let the silence speak. And Ina would always glance at the chest by the door, where the yellow raincoat rested, untouched, but never forgotten.
A full year had passed. Life in the village had settled back into its quiet rhythms. Children laughed in the streets again. Parents lingered outside during the evenings. The forest road, though still avoided after dark, became less of a warning and more of an old story. But legends don't die. They wait. It was during the monsoon season, late September, when it happened. A man from another town, a delivery driver, unfamiliar with local warnings, tried to cut through the forest road late at night. The GPS had told him it was the fastest route. He was behind schedule and took the risk. He never made it out. The next morning, police found his van parked neatly along the side of the road, doors locked, keys still in the ignition, but no sign of the man. No blood, no signs of struggle, just absence. Search teams combed the area for days. Then, on the 4th day, they found something deeper in the woods, about a mile off the main path, in a grove rarely touched by sunlight. Hanging from the low branch of a tree was a small, yellow raincoat, and beneath it, pinned to the bark with a single rusted nail, a piece of torn paper, faded, wrinkled, written in a child's uneven handwriting. "I can't help anymore. I'm sorry." The village held its breath.
People whispered that maybe Emir had tried to guide the man, just like he'd done with Aina. Maybe he couldn't find him in time. Maybe helping took something from him, something he no longer had. Whatever the truth, the forest grew quiet again, but not in peace, in warning. After that, a new sign was placed at the edge of the road. Not an official one, just wood, nailed into a crooked post, painted by hand in shaky letters. Do not enter after dark. No GPS, no shortcuts. Listen to the rain. And beneath it, someone had drawn a small yellow coat. No face, just the outline. Still watching.
They never found the delivery driver. Eventually, the search was called off. The forest reclaimed its silence, and the road returned to its usual emptiness. People still told the story, quietly, over coffee, after prayers. But they no longer whispered Emir's name like they used to. Because by then, Emir had become something else. Not just a memory, not just a tragedy, but a presence. Some said he was still in the forest, not to scare, but to protect. A guardian, a child who had stayed behind longer than he should have because his family still needed him, because someone always got lost, because someone always forgot to listen. For Aina, it became something she didn't try to explain. She graduated, moved to the city, got her own apartment. But every time it rained, especially at night, she'd turn off the GPS and take the longer road home. And if the forest appeared in the distance, thick with mist and memories, she'd slow down just a little. Not out of fear, but respect. At her parents' home, the yellow raincoat remained in the wooden chest, still folded, still untouched. But every so often, her mother would open the lid, light a small candle, and say a quiet prayer, not for peace, but for gratitude. And in the village, a new rule had quietly taken hold, something no one questioned anymore. If you ever see a boy in a yellow raincoat walking ahead of you on a dark road, don't call his name, don't try to follow. Just turn around, go home, and thank him. Because some children leave this world too soon, but some, they stay, just long enough to bring someone else home.
Grief doesn't always leave when we want it to. Sometimes it lingers, not to haunt, but to hold. It's a story about love that didn't know how to let go, and a child who stayed behind long enough to help others find peace. There are many interpretations of what happened to Emir. Was he a restless spirit, a guardian angel, or simply the memory of love so strong it moved through time and space? Some viewers may see this story as a supernatural warning. Others will see it as a quiet message that letting go isn't about forgetting. It's about trusting that love, once shared, will always find its way home. In many Southeast Asian cultures, including Malaysia, spirits of children are often portrayed as mischievous or sorrowful. But here, Emir's presence is something gentler, protective, intentional. There's also a deeper modern caution, how we rely too much on shortcuts, on convenience, ignoring warnings we don't understand. Sometimes the safest way forward is the long road home. So the next time it rains, listen. Not for fear, but for someone who once cared enough to stay behind just for you. If this story gave you chills or warmed your heart, let us know in the comments. Have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? Or do you believe some spirits stay behind for a reason? We read every single comment.